Talking about you got this and you got that, and you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'm gonna put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friends, which includes, but it's not limited to, my boy Hunt. What's poppin', baby? How you feeling today?
Hey, Connor. Doing well. I'm glad that the weather has now changed so that I can actually go outside. My favorite time of year when I get to go outside again.
Yeah, it's actually kind of happy. It's actually a little chilly in the mornings.
Yeah, even at, in the evenings once it gets dark, it gets down to like 70-ish, below 70. That's my kind of weather. I
mean,
it.
you can go outside. You just happen to have to wear a Mexican sombrero.
Right. I have to put like a big hat on and cover up my face with like one of those sun balaclava things. And it's not pretty in the summer, but this time of year, love it.
So you really want WSOP to be now?
Yeah. I mean, I loved it. The one year it was in November. It was great. But,
great.
That will probably never happen again, unfortunately.
It is very unfortunate. It was a good time.
It was a good year.
I thought for sure you weren't getting it thrown to you because I thought he was just going to throw it to Doodle over there.
I had the same thought, actually.
Dude's just here.
Yeah, Bruce.
You know what I
Bruce
mean?
in the building.
Dude's just here. Bruce is in the building. He knows. Everybody knows Bruce.
Yeah.
He's looking good.
Bruce, say what's popping.
I feel privileged to get it thrown to me instead of the dogs.
I mean, the dogs are here. You know
Someone's
that.
going to eat them soon.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, keep that dog away
Y'all
from
relax.
Ohio.
He's not.
Don't
They're
take
not
that
going
dog away.
anywhere.
It's kind of nuts. As soon as you started your little intro speech, Pip just goes straight to her corner.
Yeah, she really knows.
She's trained.
You've conditioned her. Like as soon as she hears what's popping, everybody, she's like just goes to the
Right.
You're going to go there and you're going to sit for about an hour and a half.
Yep.
And you're going to wait. But your dad is an Uzbek, so you will be alone.
She's a good girl.
She is a good girl, as so good boy Bruce. Anyway, shit's popping. What'd you guys do yesterday? Nothing? Anything good?
Yesterday?
did we
What was
do?
yesterday? Wednesday?
Yeah.
I watched
Not
the
a lot.
Pirates lose.
Oh, well, isn't that wait, did you win your bet?
Still waiting.
How many more games do you have to win?
2.
You have to win 2 more games
Yeah,
and then have how many left?
2. No.
So basically,
No, they got a solid 10 games left, maybe.
All right, Brian has the Pirates over
Higher.
72 and a half. Higher.
than 72 and a half games.
Yeah, they got 71 right now.
So he's coming down to the wire.
This must be a busy time of year for you because you got the Pirates playing and you got the Steelers also at the same time.
Right. Yes.
Some might call this the best time of the year.
Yeah,
It is the
it's true.
best time of the year. One of these times, the Pirates are actually going to be in it in September, but
When does do you follow like the Penguins and stuff as well, or not really? Not hockey?
not as much. I'm not that much into hockey.
Okay.
I've gotten into a little bit more into hockey since the Knights are here.
Okay.
But so I mean, go Pens.
And Pittsburgh doesn't have a basketball team, right?
No.
Why is that? Why is that?
I don't know.
Because they're in the Midwest and there's not that many teams in the Midwest.
Oh
you know?
my,
it's
yeah,
just
no,
like
just the
a-
Chicago Bulls.
There's some teams in the Midwest.
just
There's
like
not too many. They have to limit. They have to limit the teams
Indiana
they have in the
Pacers.
Midwest.
Bucks.
They
you
can't
know.
put too many, and like Pittsburgh's, not one of the cities. that
Indiana
should probably have
Pacers.
It always seems kind of arbitrary to me, like where the teams are in various different sports. Like, because there's some cities that like, a certain city like has like Pittsburgh has a team in every sport except basketball. Like that just seems
Right.
really weird and random to me. But that's my European.
There's no
perspective.
Pittsburgh FC.
No, well, there might be actually. I'm trying to
It
think.
sounds like it sounds.
I'm trying to think if Pittsburgh has an MLS team, and I don't think it does.
They might.
MLS?
they
Nah,
do.
I'm not sure.
They definitely have a soccer team.
Philadelphia does.
Yeah,
Philadelphia has the
definitely
Philadelphia
does.
Union.
Yeah.
I don't feel like Pittsburgh has an MLS
I would
team.
agree with you and say they don't.
I never understood the difference between like unions versus FC versus, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, the FC always stands for football club.
Right.
And most teams are like the way that the name is the full name is like whatever football club. And so depending on what country you're in or what the actual full team name is, some teams will sort of be known as just like a shorter version of their name. Some teams will have like a longer version. Like let's say Manchester United, they are Manchester United Football Club in full. People will call them Manchester United or just Man United. but they'll never just call them Manchester because there's another Manchester team. So there's like a whole system of
like
abbreviations.
There's FCs and there's also like AC Milan, but that's for athletic club.
It's
right?
for in Milan. It's for in Italian. I believe it's for Associazione Calcio.
Wow.
Because it's calcio means football in Italian. So in other countries you get AC, you get other stuff like that. So it's all abbreviations and it's all different depending on what country you're in.
Like it's the Philadelphia Union, not Philadelphia FC.
Well, that's because the American teams, they when they started up MLS, they tried to like copy a lot of the European teams in the way that they name the teams, but they also didn't want to fully go that route because it sounds silly. Like there's one team, because in soccer you have like Real Madrid is like one of the biggest teams. In MLS, there's a Real Salt Lake.
Oh, yeah.
and so when you do that, it sounds absurd.
It sounds like the Housewives, the Real Housewives of Salt Lake.
Hey, premiered last night.
What?
Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, season 5 premiered last night. Go check it out.
What? No, absolutely
But
not.
it is absurd because Real Madrid are called Real Madrid because Real means royal in Spanish. And Real Madrid used to be the team of the Spanish royal family. There's no royal family in Salt Lake, so why would you call them Real Salt Lake? It's just copying Europe. And
What do you mean?
so
You know
weird.
nothing about the Mormons. They might have a royal...
Actually, they're good. You know what? You say I know nothing about Mormons. I've watched a lot of documentaries about how fucked up
man.
Mormonism is.
Have you watched The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives?
I haven't watched that.
Man, it is... I mean, it's on Hulu, but it is very Bravo-esque.
That seems
What
like
would we
it's...
do without Brian LeMan?
Yeah, that seems like it's less in the
it's-
documentary
it
genre
is-
and more in the reality TV genre.
It is very reality TV.
All right.
It's, I love it.
There's some crazy Mormon documentaries out there, man. Netflix has a bunch of them.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. There's some wild shit going on in Mormonism, I tell you.
Yeah, seems like it. All right, we got a fun show today. First off, let's give a shout out to one of our Academy's own, Charles Campos. He's done it again. He's been absolutely crushing. He's on the
guy.
tear in Florida.
He is killing it in Florida.
He wins a 250 100K for, I believe it was 29,000.
29 G's, that's
Sweet.
right.
Let's go.
Former
go, Charles.
Academy attendee.
That is true. And we have an Academy coming up, correct?
Speaking of academies, we do. We have 2 coming up, which most people can only attend 1. So it's the Cash Game Academy. That is November 12th to the 14th. And
what do you mean? Most people can only attend
well, we
one.
do
Is the
have-
second one for like elite people?
it is.
What?
It is the Elite Academy, which will be the 15th to the 18th. It's a 4-day event. It's going to be Poker Out Loud style, and that is for anybody who's already attended the Academy.
So if we don't know you, you can't come in for that one.
Correct. Yeah. So
Are you-
the normal Cash Game Academy is going to be the normal 3-day event, lecture in the morning, gameplay in the evening or the afternoon. Hunt will be there. Berkey will be there. Landon might be there.
I'll be there.
Quick question. Is there any discount if they were to have not joined the Cash Academy yet and they wanted to do both of them?
Maybe.
All right. Well, that's
We can
good.
work on that.
All right. Well, send the email.
You're saying go back to back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back-to-back
That's-
discount.
That's a
It's gonna be hard on the brain.
That's an
yeah.
intense
Listen, I'm
week.
just saying.
That'd be a brain drain, but maybe we'll talk to the boss once he gets back from Uzbekistan. We'll straighten that out.
He's on a solo
Yeah.
camel trip right
But
now.
if you are interested, go to academy.solve4y.io and we will get you signed up.
What are the dates
Seats
for
are
those?
limited. So the Cash Game Academy is the 12th to the 14th, and then the Elite is the 15th to the 18th
Sweet. All
of November.
Has anybody talked to Berkey? Wow.
I don't know if they have phones in Uzbekistan. Do they? Like,
Well, yeah, he stopped in
kidding,
a
of course
village yesterday,
Yeah.
and
He got some Wi-Fi.
Starlink.
it's fun.
Starbucks.
I know it's not the same country. I know it's Kazakhstan, but I'm imagining Berkey like in the Borat movie now,
Yes,
and it's
right.
It's really funny.
I mean,
There he
that,
is.
like
There
that.
you go. Right. That's it. I can expect that would probably be his reaction if you just dropped him in that kind of landscape right there.
What am I gonna do?
What a picture that is. What a graphic.
It's great. Caitlin's back at it, guys.
Oh my God.
She's back at it.
doesn't
She's found herself another topic to talk about.
Does not miss.
See, this time she brings our Nikki Limo involved.
Oh wow, Nikki's in there too. Huh?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
she is. So, Guapo gets to roll that for us.
No, this is just Jungle and Opie.
I'm more attractive.
Surely you jest. I am a Card Player magazine cover boy.
I'm more attractive.
Laughable.
Bet me. Bet me who's more beautiful.
We'll pull 10 women and 10 gay men, and they will resoundingly choose me as the more beautiful man. Name your price.
$100,000.
Let's lay some ground rules. Firstly, we can never speak of this online. It's far too embarrassing.
Lol. How are we gonna find 10 random gay people?
Okay, I think we need 4 people age 18 to 30, 4 people between 50 and 65, and then 2 people from the 30s, 40s, and 50s respectively.
I'm gonna need more information for the Craigslist ad.
You're making a Craigslist ad?
Well, how are you gonna find 10 random gay people? Go over to the gay tree and shake a few loose?
Supposing there were a gay tree, I'd actually be the juiciest fruit because gay men love my face and body almost as much as women do.
You're losing this bet. You're losing $100,000.
Wait, what do we do in the event of a tie?
I guess we just start an OnlyFans and see who makes more money.
Okay, are we just showing whole or are we doing full penetration?
David Oppenheim never paid me $100,000. He skirted our bet completely. He's a bad guy. I thought our community deserved to know.
Oh no! So are we showing whole or full penetration?
Jeez.
Can we take a minute to acknowledge as well how cringe it is that these guys bet on this in the first place?
Oh yes, we have.
I mean, come on.
Well, technically,
It is
no
kinda
one was
great,
no one was supposed to know about that, but then someone went to the internet. This was supposed to be like a secret endeavor.
supposed to be
But I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
doing it secretly is like almost worse. It's so pathetic. Like,
Nah.
why do either of you care between
Right.
yourselves about who's more
Listen,
attractive?
what
At least if
Like-
you're doing it publicly, it could be like maybe people think it's a joke and it's
Yeah,
funny,
or like,
but
if
like
people can like, I
Yeah.
don't know, like you
It's
can sort of
entertainment a little
meme
bit.
about it,
Right.
and like if you're doing it publicly, like it's kind of funny, but if you're doing it privately,
it's just all about ego.
It's just sad. It's
Yeah.
pathetic.
It's like
man.
for
I can't believe it.
$100K though. Like I get it. Like if you think you have an edge on, you think you have like a looks maxing edge against someone for $100K. Like
I mean,
I don't
I'm
think
with Brandon on
about
this.
it's not the fact that someone accepted the bet. It's the fact that someone proposed the bet in the first place. Like, how do you, like, if someone says, I'm more attractive than you, how do you care so much about that the argument's gonna escalate to the point of like, I'll bet you $100,000 I'm more attractive
I
than
actually
you.
have an answer to that.
Okay.
When you play with the same people every day for a while, you
Yeah.
know, like tensions rise, you talk a lot of shit, like shit happens.
I suppose
like,
this is just like the kind of thing that happens when two guys fucking hate each other.
I mean, something along those lines. It's not even like hate each other. It's just like something might have happened. Like the way that, you see the way that Machaz girl looked at me? Like something stupid, like corny.
something
yeah,
must have
that sounds about
happened.
right.
Where someone put them against each other, and then Jungle got salty about the outcome, and then he was like, "All right, like I'm putting the house down, then I'm better looking than you." To like 10 random gay people. And
Should we do that for the OnlyFriends pod?
you want to bet $100K, Brian?
I don't know
He
about
versus
betting
you.
100K. I just want
We'll
to
find
see.
50
and it's-
random people,
Who do you
gay or
think would
not
win?
gay.
It would have to be 10 years from now.
No. It
The
would be
10 years
no.
wasn't an actual thing.
No,
I
I'm saying
messed
right
up.
now.
All right, I'm in.
Oh,
What who do you think would win?
Conrad might win.
I think
Conrad
probably
Connie's
wins.
got this
I don't
wrapped
know.
up.
I mean, El Guapo. It's in his name that
I
he's
mean,
handsome. So
I can't
it's just
compete
like,
with that with all that charisma.
Wait,
right
do I
there.
bring Bruce with
It's
me
not
for my
about
picture?
Riz. It's just pictures.
It's not about charisma.
Riz, there's
you
no
don't get
Riz
this.
here.
You don't get to speak.
No,
it's just
a stock photo of
Can I
yourself.
have Bruce in my picture?
no
No.
dogs. Dogs
No.
are effectively
That's a
cheating.
performance-enhancing drug right there.
Performance-enhancing dog.
Honestly, like it's not a bad idea to make, instead of doing their bet like this, do it through like the sense of like having a dating profile, and they're not allowed to respond. Like
They're
they
not
both have
allowed to
like they both have a
Oh,
dating
just-
profile.
oh, that's
like,
actually a really
like
good way
Tinder
to-
and Hinge or whatever, or like Bumble. Like pick whatever you want.
Who gets
and
more
then
matches or something?
Make a profile. You're not allowed to like swipe on people or interact with it. Wait a week or 2 weeks, and then see who gets more likes,
That's
and do it
probably not
that
a
way.
bad way to
That's
do it.
actually a good way Jungleman and what's his face can
Opie?
yeah, and Opie can
And they could have done this
They can open up-
discreetly. They didn't
Yeah.
have to go to Twitter.
they can,
The thing is,
they can sign up on Grindr and they can sign up on Tinder
exactly.
and done.
but
yeah.
isn't
Kind of cooking.
you know, I'm not on these dating apps as I've been locked down for many years.
Many moons.
Many moons.
Many moons.
But like, it's not just about the picture, right? It's or like whether you're good looking or not. Isn't it about like what's in your profile, and what you say? So like the Riz does come into
you
play.
think
in
people
that.
read profiles, Brian?
I don't know. I'm asking.
Listen. I'll tell you one thing. They definitely listen to voice notes. And our good friend Berkey's voice note was, I have never drunk or done a drug.
I never drunk or done a drug.
Drank or done a drug. It was like one interesting fact about me. I've never drank or done a drug.
Is that what it was?
It was so good.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So they're like boring, swipe.
Yeah, there's not a lot of mystique going on there.
God, it was so good. So Caitlin did it again. She brings Nikki with her. What do you guys think about it?
It doesn't miss, man.
Yep.
Every time Caitlin puts all the time and energy into these things, she always does them.
Absolutely killed it. Hunt said, shout out to Nikki for finding a full tilt patch. I don't know where she got that from.
I think she's neighbors with Mormon, so he probably has a
I don't
couple
even
of
know
those
where
laying
Mormon
down.
got that from.
Mormon
He's
just
still
got
got
him
him laying down.
He's still got him laying around
I guess
somewhere?
Mormon's been around long enough that he's got all sorts of old memorabilia lying
Maybe.
around his house.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. Like,
Or she probably just ordered it from Amazon or something.
yeah,
eBay.
I mean, there's probably some out there.
Not
That's
Amazon,
true.
eBay. But yeah.
That's a relic of the poker past, I guess.
It
Any
is.
full tilt much.
Yeah.
I feel like we're owed a conclusion to this bet, you know?
I mean, I
At
feel
this
like
point.
once you make it public, like you kind of like we're owed it now.
At this point, like,
Yeah,
we need
hopefully.
to know who the winner is. I mean, Seaver's right. I think the sharp guys would bet on Opie here. Opie's got like that bear aesthetic, you know? Opie might scoop the gay community. If he scoops, it's 20-1. That's in the terms.
Scoop the game.
That's right, yeah.
Landon
it
said
is.
he has some insider knowledge.
If you scoop
Yeah.
either group, right?
Like, I should have. Oh, fuck, I forgot to ask Griffin. I'll ask Griffin next time. I'll say, who do you think looks better?
What's insider knowledge in this case? Is
he
it
wants
like,
to ask his brother who looks
right,
better.
okay. I was gonna say insider knowledge is
think
like
he'd go-
I'm gay and I find this
I
guy
think
more
he'd go- I
attractive.
think he'd
I
go
think he's
Opie.
Team Opie.
I think
Yeah.
he'd
I
go
think he's
Opie,
Team
yeah.
Opie.
Yeah, he's
You know
team-
Griffin. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
if
team-
you'd against Griffin,
He's Team Opie.
yeah, I think so. Sharp people would bet on Opie.
Probably makes sense.
Do you think people in other communities outside poker bet on who's more attractive, or
For
is
sure.
this just like
For
a
sure.
stupid thing that only poker players would do?
This is like a
I mean, it's
thing of
more
as old as
likely,
time.
you know, in our community, but I would think it happens elsewhere.
I mean, yeah, we bet on anything, right?
Yeah. I mean, I always feel like a lot of pro athletes probably do stupid bets with each other all the time because they have infinite money and they have nothing
Right.
to do with their time other
Right.
than just play sports.
You got to think about all the time they spend on airplanes and stuff.
Exactly,
Like
that's what
they
I mean.
have to be
They
this
probably
gambling.
do stupid
I mean,
gambling
we
all
know
the time.
we know there's a lot of gambling. There's been plenty of like stories, like especially now with like podcasts and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Stuff like always comes out. I forgot who it was, but there was some NBA story about somebody owed somebody money from gambling or whatever, and the second he saw him on the court, he's like, "You got my money, bitch." I forgot who it was. I don't remember, but it was on one of these podcasts.
It feels like to a degree, like once you like have a good amount of money, like betting money like doesn't do it anymore. You know, it's got to be something else, like pride related.
I
like-
mean,
Or,
money
like,
is kind of
this is why
private.
guys get into like really extreme activities, like where you risk your life doing shit. Like they don't get a rush anymore from anything that doesn't involve life or death situations, and so they
to
just
like
keep
jump off a
chasing the
cliff or
rush.
something.
Right. Or like, you know, even more dangerous shit than that. You know, like there's forms of skydiving where like you're like taking way more risks because you're opening the parachute really low and shit like that. Like,
Oh, I would
it's
do that.
Crazy.
I went skydiving twice. It's
Wow,
best,
really?
Yeah, best experience.
Wow.
Twice in the same
I've
day.
heard it's amazing, but I absolutely don't have the
Conrad's
balls
just
for it.
ready to die, man.
What do you mean?
He's just ready.
No, it's great. Honestly, it is like one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. Unfortunately, it lasted a minute, but it's great.
It was like
I couldn't
It
be
doesn't-
paid to do that.
It doesn't even last a minute.
That's
It's
what
like
she
30
said.
seconds. It's
Yeah,
fucking wild.
I'm too scared now. I saw a documentary a while back about a guy who, like his chute didn't open, but he survived. So he
Ooh.
like he was like strapped to an instructor. Both their chutes didn't open, like the backup chute didn't open or whatever, and they just hit the ground, but they both survived.
That's
Wait, how is
insane.
that
Like,
possible?
I don't know how it's possible. This was the context of the documentary. It was like it was all about people who've survived like impossible situations.
Right.
And it was these two guys both survived, and they had like all kinds of broken bones and shit, but they survived the drop. And I'm like,
What's
I would almost
better?
rather die at that point. Like,
Right, yeah.
Like I wonder if like right before like impact, like it caught like wind and like slowed them down maybe.
yeah, they
And, like-
said in the doc that there wasn't like they couldn't identify any specific reason why they didn't die, but it was I think it was and I can't remember. I think one of them did die. I think that was it. I think
Okay.
it was one guy that because they interviewed a guy
the
that
guy on the
survived.
bottom, I'm sure.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I think I misremembered. It wasn't that they both survived. It was that the the one guy who died absorbed enough of the impact that the other guy survived.
Wow.
And in that context where like this guy's body basically breaks your fall and you survive and you just break a bunch of bones, like that's messed up, man. I think I would rather die than just have that situation occur. It's fucked up.
Yeah, it's not the best. Not the best at all.
But I'm too scared to skydive now because of that story.
Situations you do not want to occur. I'll tell you one. Nick Morris told us one on Twitter today. It's a little bedbug story.
That's a rough story.
So apparently there was a man playing at Venetian the other day, and he had bed bugs. He saw this. Nick saw this little bug in between them or something like that, and he takes it and he squishes it with his finger. Nick or somebody went to go alert the floor or whatever and let them know, and the guy had walked away. And eventually they found him back at another table, and they cleaned the situation up pretty quickly. But how would you guys feel if you were in a situation where there are bed bugs?
They said everybody at the table was getting itchy, right? Like the bugs were spreading across like the table.
Well,
apparently they saw
they-
one, then they saw another one, and the guy looked a little shabby. He said, and then he said that like everyone at the table was like getting a little itchy. So like I don't know if that means that they were spreading. And
well, you know the funny part is I think once you see one, like just your mind brings you that way.
You're on the hunt.
Like, you're on the
like, oh shit.
hunt.
Right. And you bring that home with you now, and then your whole house becomes infested.
But isn't it like with, I can't remember if it's bed bugs or something else, but like if you can see one, it means there's a lot more.
Yes, right.
Right? Because you never normally see them, but once you see them, it means there's so many that there's like a ton of them.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
Yeah, it might be like that, where like as soon as you see one, it's too late.
Yeah.
Now they're everywhere already. You know.
I mean, I don't know how fast they spread, but the man could have been at the table for that long.
Yeah, I mean,
know?
it's tough to say, but like it's a really, really ugly one. I would not want to be in that spot.
Yeah, no, it's not a great spot at all. I'll say that. Have you guys ever like experienced something like? Oh, also, I do want to give flowers to the Venetian because apparently they cleaned it up very quickly. They escorted the man out and steamed cleaned and did everything they had to do.
This is one of the reasons where this is one of the times where it makes me grateful that in the WSOP rules, you can actually be disqualified from a tournament for poor hygiene.
Yes.
So I think it's probably less likely that you'd see this in a tournament than a cash game, because you actually can be just turfed out of a tournament and not get a refund.
Right. So,
I think it would be the same, honestly. Like people aren't thinking about that. Like they're not saying, the person's not saying, "Hey, I got bed bugs. I'm going to go play it, and I hope I don't get ejected today."
What you're saying is
like,
it's plus EV to shower.
Yes, it is, because it reduces the chance of you getting disqualified from almost zero to literally zero.
Right. If you want to increase your EV, shower before you go play.
Yeah. And
bring deodorant with you.
You
like
increase
brush your teeth.
You increase your overall life EV as well, I think.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I never experienced bed bugs or anything like that.
I have that either.
That happened to Michelle in New York. There was someone like in like the floor below her that like apparently like this person hadn't left their like apartment for like years, or like, you know, they were like a hermit or something. Yeah. And like people complained that like they could smell like the room, like a stench coming from there. And eventually bed bugs showed up and like infested the whole building. They had to like cut that. Like she got back. She was like, I think she was home visiting her parents, and who lived, you know, maybe like whatever, an hour north. She was there for like the weekend. Comes back, the whole building is like getting fumigated, and all her stuff. They packed up like all her stuff, and she couldn't have access to any of her stuff that was in the apartment. Like, yeah, it was like a crazy mess.
That's terrible.
Shout out to KZ Killer. He said, "I'm itchy just thinking about it."
I'm sitting here like, oh my god,
it's funny.
on me.
I think the worst thing that happened, like call it classic, I don't know if it's like Florida man, like Florida children, was like lice. You know, like you like roll around like in like to like play football and stuff like in a field. Like lice outbreaks would happen.
Yeah,
From being on a field?
Well, it's not playing on.
Like how else do you get lice?
I think you get it from other kids, not from the grass.
Yeah, but like where do those kids get it from?
There has to be like an origin kid.
There's an origin.
You know?
Yeah.
There's like
There's not like
patient
lice.
zero.
There's not like lice kid. You know.
Kid zero that gets the lice first and gives it to everybody else. You know.
Like there's been like lice. Like everyone had to go into the nurse's office.
Right.
And like check your hair.
Yep.
and then you had to like go get like a bath with like the super like lice killing
The lice
stuff.
killing shampoo. And
But
shit.
that's probably different than bed bugs to a degree.
But I mean, thankfully, that isn't something we have to worry about at the poker table. I mean, I would be pretty pissed off if someone showed up and gave me lice at a tournament. Somehow.
I don't think you have anything
Well,
to
you don't
worry
have
about
anything to
there.
worry about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think I mean,
It's also
maybe
hard
in the
for you to get
beard or
lice,
something
yeah.
like
Yeah.
beard
Oh my God.
lice.
No,
You
no,
and
no,
Berkey
no.
are not getting
I hope
lice.
not.
You and beard, no beard lice. You guys will be all right.
That sounds absolutely miserable.
One of the upsides of
Being bald, yeah.
No lice.
I'm trying to figure out where lice comes from, and I just can't get a quick answer.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I don't think I've ever seen any
Guapo's
behavior.
answer was just kids.
I don't think I've ever seen any behavior this egregiously weird and gross at a table, but you certainly see every now and again you'll get someone show up at the table where you're like, well, this guy needs a shower, or this guy like there's some weird habit, or they have the wrong vibe and they don't feel like someone you're comfortable being around. And if you start to see someone like a little bug like crawls out of his sleeve, like that's
Just
like the
run.
ultimate. Just get the fuck
Just
out.
get
of here.
Yeah. I would rack up and leave.
I was
Yeah.
at the table the other day, and a man was sitting there. It was fine, whatever. Then he lost a hand. It went like this. And I said, "Oh hell no!
Yeah.
I can't take this. No, it was
I
bad.
think someone who has incredibly poor hygiene but is like a nice guy is actually worse than someone who's normal hygiene but is a complete asshole. I would rather they were just an asshole, like super obnoxious, than that they have terrible hygiene. So please just take a shower, guys. You know.
We ain't wrong. We are not wrong there. All right, we have some other things come to a conclusion this week. The Poker Masters has come to the final stretch.
Yeah, today's last day.
Today is the last day. We have the final table of the 25K, correct?
Correct.
All right. And we find out who won the purple jacket. We
Yeah,
found out a little bit early because Colopy had to fade J-Bex, Brock, Zachy, and David Chen, which he did because Zachy was last. He got 8th with Ace-King, couldn't beat 7s, and it was all over for him. He had to win it.
It's all over, baby.
It was all over, baby. So Jim Colopy wins the purple jacket. Shout out to him.
Yeah. Wow, look at that. He's already got it on.
Yeah.
Thanks to AI. AI is absolutely great.
I like that you added the glasses as well.
Well, no, the glasses were already there. I literally just took the picture and said purple blazer. And bang.
That's what technology is all for.
It gave me 4.
Amazing.
I just had to pick the right one.
Wow.
Now, when you win this jacket, what do you do with it? Do you put it like in a trophy case? If you have a trophy case, do you just put it in your closet? Do you wear it?
I would imagine
I don't think you
90%
wear
of the
it.
people who've won it, it's just in their closet.
Yeah, I feel like they should all come together and like one should like the guy who like won the last year gives it,
Like
and they're
with
all
golf.
wearing it.
Like,
yeah,
I think that's the idea of calling
it.
it the Poker Masters.
Right,
but
exactly.
They don't lean into that. They don't
Right.
have the ceremony.
Yeah,
Like,
they need to have the ceremony with all the previous winners holding champagne, wearing their purple jackets. It's like, when else are you gonna wear it, right?
What?
And don't you want to wear it? Like,
Do you want to wear it?
I think for one day,
Jacket
one
for
day
a
when they present the new winner, that's the day you wear it.
it's a really sweet jacket.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm saying.
I would not want to own that thing and then just never wear it.
That's
like,
what I'm saying,
If I
yeah.
ever went to like a black tie thing, I might break it out if I had one like that.
I wanted to
you
be
know?
a musician.
A magician.
or musician.
A magician. Not a musician.
It's definitely a
Well, maybe.
magician's outfit. Like you could show up to a magic show wearing that thing.
Yeah, get it popping. I mean, I would definitely just have it in one of these like things, like a
little case.
You can't
Glass
see it.
display
Yeah,
case.
like a little
Yeah.
glass display case, like on a little mannequin that looks like me or
Yeah,
something.
you got like a little Conrad mannequin that has the jacket on it.
Oh my god.
Well, it's like you take it out of the case when you go to play poker. It's like the Batman suit that's like
Sure.
it's on display in the case, and then when you're gonna go play, you like break it out. And
yeah.
you're like,
We
okay,
could
now
put
it's
it on the
time
Silver
to-
Knight.
time
What
to
do you
go
mean?
play.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
The Silver Knight gets it.
right behind
Right.
you. Just put it on that guy.
Oh yeah, wow.
That's
Oh,
strong.
perfect.
Now we need a purple jacket.
Why the hell? By the way, why the hell do we have that? Like
Berkey had it from one of his houses way long ago.
that's been here for so long, and I remember it being at Berkey's old house. But even then, I was looking at that and like, how and why does someone have like a fake suit of armor in this house? Like, it's the most weird thing in
I
this
actually
office.
remember seeing this on Jason Somerville
He-
on his stream.
So
like,
he
Wow,
also
way
had one.
back in the day.
Yeah, he also has one.
Oh, so there's two different ones going around.
We should have them fight.
Oh man.
It's a very small knight. It's like a child knight. It's not really like a full adult man in armor. It's like slightly smaller than that.
It's true. It actually looks like it has titties. Look.
It's just that's the breastplate, man. You
That's
gotta
the
watch
breastplate?
out.
It's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
armor.
That's where like if they shoot you with the arrow, like you're good.
All right. Bet.
They try to stab at you, like you're good.
All right, enough of this shit. Let's get into some strat chat.
Talk strategy.
All right, we seen a wild hand this week. Not wild, but a fun hand.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of conversation about it. I mean, it came from that Pokemasters event recently. It was another example of Schulman just kind of doing Schulman things and just owning everybody, you know. But
Just being a goat.
yeah, just being a general goat. But it was also just I saw the hand and I was like, wow, this is a spot where, I guess from both perspectives, but particularly from Kalopi's perspective, like, I don't really have any idea how we're supposed to play this spot, you know, because of the nature of it. I don't really know. Like when he calls off on the river, it could be really bad, it could be really good. It's really, really tough to figure it out in this spot. So
right, let's
interested to look at it.
Yeah, let's run the sand real quick.
For Nick Schulman, this could get interesting.
10 seconds.
At least we got action.
3 of clubs.
Yeah. I wasn't paying attention enough to see that. Could have. Confirm 3 of clubs?
I don't know if it was a club, it was either 3. Black 3.
Call in the small with King Queen suited.
10 seconds. Call. Time extension.
It's gonna come with the call. It's gonna go heads up as Coleman tosses King 4
I think
into
it
the
started
muck.
with a little more, but not much.
Schulman has a covering stack here. Queen, Jack, 9, all clubs. Kalopi, top pair and a gut shot. Schulman, still the overpair, and
Jack.
the nut clubs as well. If we're Kalopi here, Donnie, how do we view a situation like this?
Facility.
I mean, I think once again, like we've seen on a couple of the recent hands he's played, I think you got to proceed with caution. I mean, and I know you got top pair, you got that gutter, but there's a lot of danger out there. It says something that Schulman's betting at this type of texture as well. Kalopi does come with the call. Oh wow, look at this.
Oh.
10 on the turn.
Incredible turn of events, this card. Kalopi makes a king high straight. Schulman still with nut clubs. Now, Donnie, if we're Schulman here, are we supposed to always slow down here? Realize equity as far as the flush draw goes?
2x speed with sound on.
10 seconds.
I think with the ace of clubs, I think you're fine to bet this.
Why sound on? Because
Say
people
one more
sound
time.
great.
I mean, you also have to factor in, you know, range versus range. Like, Schulman can have a lot of kings here, or some kings, I should say. Schulman can have ace-king, too. Schulman's got ace-king with the ace of clubs, ace-king with the king of clubs, etc.
Action on Kalopi.
Call.
Just comes with the call. Not concerned about clubs peeling off here?
I mean, not yet. It's hard to flop flushes.
True. River is the queen of diamonds. Kalopi with the check mark. Do we mix leading and checking here? Is there a certain approach that you would lean towards?
Guessing we see check here.
I mean, that queen further reduces Schulman's confidence in his hands, as Kalopi will have queens in this range as well.
Yeah, Kalopi can have a queen. He can have obviously full houses now. You know, if he's got a queen jack, a queen 10, or stuff like that.
Yeah, what's left out there to get value from?
Good luck.
All in.
Time extended.
Wow.
My.
Schulman moves all in. Out of left field here. And Colby asking for a count. The leader in the race for the purple jacket
100.
is a call away from a very big stack. But he has to make it. Donnie, he has the queen himself, blocking a lot of the full house combos.
He is blocking full houses. He is blocking some of the ace kings, you know, other kings as well. Schulman has that ace of clubs in his hand, so probably feels confident that I feel like Schulman is.
Time
Yeah.
extension.
I mean, this is a 6 spot for Colby.
Wow.
Oh man, think about the last 3-4 hands he's been in, all kind of like. God, he doesn't like it. Look at him. He's just like, are you serious?
10 seconds.
What an incredible swing here, going from being excited about. Wow!
Look
He
at
lets
that.
it go.
I love that play from Schulman. Oh my!
Weird hand there.
That is a weird hand. I think Schulman turned his hand into a bluff on the river. I think he did it correctly.
Oh my God!
Insane.
Yeah.
That was an insane hand.
That was a wild one.
That was fun.
It's funny to hear the commentators. I know people talked a lot about how the commentators reacted to it, but it's funny to hear Donnie say, like, oh, I think he turned his hand into a bluff on the river. He turned his hand into a bluff on the turn.
Yeah.
You know, like, he was already bluffing on the turn, and it was specifically that ace of clubs that did it there.
Mm-hmm.
Really interesting spot.
What do you think, like, when we look at this, what do you think the line's going to look like from Colby's perspective when we see the river?
When we see the river, it's definitely a weird one because it, you know, pairing the board, it makes, like, I think the instinctive reaction is that, oh, the board paired and there was forward with straight before, therefore it changes a lot, or you know, everything changes. But I don't know if it changes that much from Schulman's perspective, because I don't think a lot of his sets and 2 pairs are going to barrel the turn that often. Like, I think he does a lot of checking with those hands on the turn, and that kind of means that Schulman actually doesn't really have a lot of full houses when he gets to the river.
Yeah.
Colby, though, has a pretty decent chunk of them because a lot of his suited 2-pair hands will take that line by check calling twice. So in essence, I think when we run this, it wouldn't surprise me if Colby's actually supposed to do a fair amount of like block bet leading on the river.
Like, yeah.
Or possibly even some block bet leading on the turn. And I think if we assume that he's playing range check on every street, then it certainly means that I think Schulman's strategy is going to probably come down to being really, really card removal dependent. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see some really weird stuff in the sim. Like, I think we are probably going to see that aces with the ace of clubs is a good bluff, but I also think it's actually possible that some stuff like ace queen bluffs as well on that river.
Okay.
Or even on the turn. Like ace queen, ace of clubs could easily bluff there. I think there's like some if he does bet the turn with like a counterfeited 2-pair, like a jack 10. Well, sorry, he bets turn with jack 10 and then like gets counterfeited on the river. That might decide to bluff the river. Like it's really hard to know what the bluffs are supposed to be in these spots where, first of all, both the ranges are relatively tight to begin with because they're both middle stacks and they're on the bubble. But secondly, the ranges are really tight because the board is like super condensed into one region of the deck. And then you get 3 streets of action where, you know, there's flushes, there's straights, there's full houses out there. And eventually you reach this point where it's really hard to know exactly where the thresholds are for everything because it's so hard for both players to have a good hand at the same time here, right?
Yeah.
It's hard for one to have, like, if one has a full house, the other one's very likely to have much weaker. If one has a straight, the other one's more likely to have, like, a full house. And it's a really complicated hand. So I thought it was really interesting to see, first of all, Schulman just fire it off with the aces, but also to see that Colby found the fold, because I don't know which direction I would lean with king queen here.
All right, going back.
I really like the graphic as far as them putting big blinds now.
Well, there's a back and forth about this because they're putting the bets in chips and the stacks in big blinds, and I feel like a lot of people say they need consistency there.
Yeah.
I also would love to see the action tracker back up on there. Action tracker is always great just for like hand histories and stuff. When you catch
I think
them
that's
late
good. If you
just
jump
looking
into
at
a hand
'em.
midway through, like just remembering what happened earlier is kind of nice. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not like you don't when you have poker on, you don't really watch every single moment of it. So it's like when you look back up, it's nice to at least see that action tracker. But what I wanted to say was, do you think that Colopy has any leads on the turn?
It's very plausible. It's gonna a lot of the time depend on how much check raising he's doing, I think, because ordinarily on a monotone flop, you won't see a lot of check raising. But this is a specific kind of a monotone flop where the flop itself is blocking a lot of the flushes that both players can have. So some of these monotone flops tend to start to have a little bit more check raising just for that reason. Like it's basically both players here either have like a nut flush or the straight flush, or they don't have a flush, right? Because there's no suited broadways that are actually left for any of them to have except for the straight flush and then like the ace king of clubs and the other suited aces. And they neither of them really have much suited connector stuff in their range. So I feel like I would expect Colopy to maybe have some leads on the turn just to put a hand like, I don't know, to maybe like if Schulman has like red aces and he bets the flop, or if he has like red ace queen, you know, if Colopy leads the turn for like quarter pot, those hands have some really annoying decisions.
Yeah.
So it might, I think we probably will see some leading on at least turn or river, probably not flop, but I would be surprised if we just see pure check every street from Colopy here.
I was thinking turn is kind of interesting because I don't really think
I don't think you can lead.
Yeah, my initial thought was that we couldn't lead, just because we don't have ace king in range. Like Keith has all ace king.
I think the ace king matters less when there is a monotone flop. But some portion of that is going to depend on how wide Colopy can actually call in the small blind here, because I don't think he's supposed to have much calling to begin with, and that's where this becomes really weird and murky, because if he's not really supposed to have much of a calling range at all, and then he calls, now either that range is really, really specific and it's not going to have a lot of board coverage, or maybe there's some hands in there that shouldn't actually be calling, but now they did call, and that is going to lead to him having a range that it's hard to really pin down.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, this range.
Let's get into it.
This is just like near bubble range for small blind. I mean, I think that this range to a degree is like way too wide for the spot that's actually happening, because in Nick's spot it's stone bubble. I'm just like not gonna tweak it, but I guess this is the issue with this range as a whole.
Yeah.
Because this has like suited ace X in here, like small trace amounts of like tiny connectors, like 5s to 8s in fold at flat pre because of the price. Like, I don't necessarily know if this is actually happening. Like it has.
Sorry, Landon, you have to change your other screen. You got to go back to the Zoom and then share the other screen.
Okay, new share.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to follow on from that thought, I certainly feel like the hardest part of this hand is how tight Colopy's range specifically is pre-flop.
Yeah, you know? Like I really think that I probably have to change this. Like, if you look at, can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think changing like these offsuit king queen, ace jack, ace 10, like this range like is probably pretty gutted of these pairs. So like, if I were to gamble on Colopy range, it would be something to the effect of like some suited ace X, some pairs that like don't want to jam. So like maybe it'll have like 8s and like 7s sometimes, and like maybe 6s, 9s. Like these like ace, like these these suited aces, like maybe, but they also like do well as like 3 bets as well.
Yeah.
So like ace jack suited makes sense to play flat, but like I wouldn't play any flats here from small blind. Like king queen suited, it's like a logical hand to flat sometimes versus like jam pre.
And what are we doing here? We're speculating what
I'm just
his
speculating
range looks
like what's gonna go on here from his side.
Yeah, we're speculating small blind range.
Okay.
Like some suited paint that might flat pre. A6 probably not. 9-8 definitely not. So like maybe it's like something like this. Like there's like suited paint in here. Sometimes it doesn't jam pre.
And this is the stone bubble, right?
This is stone bubble. So like
Okay.
small blind's not really trying to play that many hands.
Yeah, and he's covered.
And he's covered.
The other consideration as well is that if Colopy's already at this point starting to think about the fact that he's at the top of the purple jacket leaderboard, then I don't know how the point system exactly works, but he might have an even bigger effective risk premium here than what the real risk premium is.
So I think he got second in this, and that's what.
Oh, so he wasn't already.
I think he was up. Like he was up there. He had like 3 final tables or 3 caches already, something along those lines.
But he wasn't like already the leader.
But yes,
Okay.
I think this put him over the top.
Okay, so that probably doesn't mean that much then. But still, I think that. Yeah, I think this is it's a difficult range to predict because him having a flat range here sort of requires him to be playing a pre-flop strategy that's a little
I don't know why this
unpredictable.
is all in full. It's supposed to be in 75%. I don't know what's happening.
It's okay. We can just
whatever.
proceed from
So yeah, flop for Nick is probably like it only has this one size of 67, but like mixing
Really?
bets and checks, he just went quarter. I think quarter is going to probably do pretty well. Yeah, so it does do pretty well. Kind of force him to make some tough decisions. Not necessarily on flop, because like he's going to have some ace-x, no backdoor that's going to find folds. And then have some hands with equity that he's probably not going to play very many check raises, because it's hard for him to have a really good hand when the board is like this. So yeah, he goes quarter. You don't really want to be raising on the stone bubble.
Oh, no raises at all, yeah.
You're covered, and you want to kind of keep your range intact.
Yeah, this was kind of the element that made me feel like there might be some turn donking, just because when there are no raises at all, like it's a 10 of spades on the turn.
Yeah.
When there's no raises at all, like everything that's strong still exists in the range that arrives at the turn. Let's see.
Yeah, so turn like lead.
A tiny bit of leading, not really.
Yeah, not really. I would imagine he's just going to play range check for the ace-king purpose.
What if you decrease the lead size? Like, because leading for 66 is kind of weird. If you make it lead for quarter.
It probably doesn't do anything that you want it to, because Nick's not going to have that many folds, I would imagine.
10%, yeah.
Yeah, so like you can, I doubt he's just going to, I would imagine.
Probably playing range check, yeah.
I think like on bubble when you're covered, like range check is obviously just going to do fine. So turn for Nick. Nick went tiny again, right?
No, he bet a half pot.
Half?
Did he?
Yeah. He bet 105 into 210.
Okay. So it looks like in the fantasy land ranges, like it wants to check back because of equity and things along these lines, and then you bluff with like these offsuit. You just have because where he's opening from.
Yeah.
Okay. In this solve, he was covering everybody with 29 bigs from the hijack.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he's gonna have these offsuit stuff to pull from.
Yeah. One of my assumptions about this spot was that Schulman probably wouldn't have that much offsuit ace-x to draw bluffs from.
Yeah. If he's covered behind, he won't open these. You know.
Right.
So like this is again the issue with like
you could remove those from the opening range. And see what happens maybe.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he's probably not going much lower than like maybe ace-8 off, ace-9
Do we
off.
have? Can you go back to the screenshot of the top of see like I just want to see like how if he's covered behind by like a lot.
He's got 27 to his left.
Like this
and
isn't
got Joseph
happening.
and Lindy.
Yeah, like this range is a lie. It's like probably like ace-9 off.
This range is a lie.
It's like sixes plus.
Yeah.
It's like king 8 suited plus.
Now we're looking at Colopy's range. Is that
no?
No, we're looking at Schulman's range, but this is only because he has stacks behind him that are covering.
Right.
So it's just like his opening range is going to be much tighter.
So if you take out the those offsuit aces, now do you think pocket aces might get in as a bluff just because
it might
you need
be
to pull
harder
from?
to find
It looks like
bluffs
king
as
3 and
well.
king deuce are in there for some weird
Yeah,
reason.
I took them out.
But they're still highlighted though, is what I'm saying.
Oh, it's going to be 0%.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like this is kind of not the issue, but like why Sims are so fragile in the first place.
Right.
Because like if Nick's covering everyone behind, he has more bluffs to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
But now if his range is a lot more condensed towards really good hands, you're going to have less to choose from when it comes to this board specifically, because your bluffs are now equity dense hands. Like ace-9 off is a pair.
Yeah,
right?
and this is what I thought was like super interesting about the spot as a whole, just the fact that it's a spot where both ranges are so condensed pre-flop. You know, like neither player really has a wide range at all here. Yeah, we get a little bit of leading on it. And it just becomes super difficult to to really estimate exactly how all of that is going to ultimately affect the strategies here.
Yeah,
What's
so
everybody laughing about?
I don't know. I
have
looked
no
over
idea.
at Guapo and he's fucking ear to ear smiling, just cheesing.
It's just
on
the Matrix, man. It's deep.
yeah, so it looks like in this spot you don't want to like use aces as much as you want to use ace 9 for like the potential set block that you have here for Colopy. Right, you block sets, you have the ace of clubs, like you can use this to bluff more than aces. But I mean, it might just be like size dependent, where like if you go tinier on the turn, you might have.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about this. Let's make sure we can get the river in, because the river's a really interesting spot
Yeah,
too.
so I would imagine you just bluff with like ace 9, right? Because
it's like your bluff combo. Yeah.
right. So the river's, what was it? A queen of
Queen of
spades?
Queen of
Queen of
hearts. I
hearts.
think.
Yeah, because Colopy is king, queen of spades.
Yeah.
Queen of diamonds.
Oh, Queen of diamonds. Okay.
Sure. Okay, queen of diamonds looks like he does get the lead a little bit, which makes some sense. He just has full houses.
Don't you have to put the aces in on the turn so it's there on the river?
I mean, you'd have to
We'll do
lock
that,
it,
Yeah.
but we'll do it in a second. So he gets leads. It's just a matter of like, is he playing them or not? Because this range is going to change based off if he's playing leads.
And he's like, it sort of looks like he's taking some really weird, like there's some weird bluffs there, right? On that.
Yeah, Jack
turn.
10, 2-pair
Right,
bluff.
Jack 10 just like donk jams as a bluff there.
You tried to make a full house, you didn't, so you're all in no matter what.
Yeah.
I love that.
You're leading with like, when you have a flush, you have flushes, you have king 10 for straight, king queen checks, and then facing all in, king queen is just going to not be really thrilled.
Indifferent, yeah.
Yeah, depending on the suits, I guess for like king queen of hearts, not as good.
Hearts is worse than spades.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
once, like Jim's kind of correct in the sense of assuming that this is like a very thin spot, not worth very much, and this is also trying to find like someone needs to be like really trying to find these bluffs here, which obviously
yeah.
aces is like a good approach to have, because yeah, your bluff here looks like ace 10 with a club, ace
Do we
9.
even think Schulman has ace 9 off in full?
I mean, there's a mix, right? It just depends on what you're thinking. I think it would open a good amount. Like the high cards are really good on the bubble. So, like, it's not like he opens and gets auto 3-bet.
Yeah, no, of course.
So, ace 10 off is definitely going to be in the range. Ace 9 off is like close. Like maybe it's, you mix it sometimes. Just to have
no,
some,
I was thinking ace 10 off 100%, but ace 9 off sometimes
Yeah,
flies a
I think
box.
these are spots I think where people make big errors with how they construct in these high ICM spots as well. Like I think a lot of people would look at this spot and think that the flushes are more common and things like that, and that maybe like something like ace 9 off doesn't exist for Schulman, but it's definitely really important to kind of acknowledge and recognize here that Schulman could or could not have ace 9 off pre, but he never has like 6-5 of clubs.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like he just
Yeah.
zero frequency is opening those hands in this kind of a spot, because those suited connector hands just lose so much of their value, not only when you get shallow, but when you get close to a bubble or when you get in ICM spots, because you're just not going to play a lot post flop. So you need to have stuff like the ace 9 off, the maybe like the king 8 suited, king 7 suited stuff, but you know, opening 6-5 suited here or opening like pocket 5s or 4s or something is not a good idea.
So I'm just going to remove leads for a second. Because
Have him play range check.
Yeah, I would imagine he's just going to play range check in game. Once again, you're in the bubble and you're covered.
For Schulman.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now aces, like, looks like you want to use ace 9 sometimes. And if you gave him leads, you'd want to bluff with aces a little bit more, just because his range is going to be, like, not butchered to a degree, because his value, like, Colopy's value needs to get paid. And if he has Jack 10, like, you have to find a way to bluff and win the hand. And then again, like, we're playing the game of, does he even flat it pre in the first place?
Yeah.
Right.
Who knows, you know? So, like, these spots they're kind of what make poker so cool, because there's not really an actual answer.
Right.
Like, you can look at a sim and then play a strategy that you want to play, and then someone might just, like, he'll king jack suited versus jam it, you know?
Right. And then the other super interesting thing here is Schulman's not even supposed to really jam
ace king,
a flush or ace king on the river, right? Like
it's too thin.
He's checking back the nut flush on this river. And so it seems counterintuitive that, you know, he would be checking back the nut flush, but then we would also be, you know, making sure that we bluff with ace 9 or something like that. But it comes down to, if his range for value betting the river is full houses, then our bluffs need to basically have full house blockers. And the the flush blocker actually seems like it's slightly less important here than a full house blocker in the form of the ace-9.
Right, because now like Colopy's folding when he has ace-8 of clubs because Nick's value range is full house plus.
Yeah.
Which makes pocket nines be indifferent as you're not really doing too much for you, and you're blocking Nick's bluff with ace-9. Right,
Yeah.
Nick's gonna have ace-9 and like ravage it in. So pocket nines is actually like really ugly.
Right.
Because it's less likely he's bluffing. And then king queen becomes a better call.
Man, this
like
is such
pure
a
call.
funky river spot.
Yeah, this is why I was super curious about this
So
one. 'Cause,
funky.
like, imagine Colopy folds nines here. Like, imagine people's reaction to, like, he folded a full house off 30 big blinds or something. Like,
and it's just a better fold than king queen.
right.
It's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I guess
wild,
the
man.
issue to some extent is like the human element of poker / like being on the bubble, like having a nut flush. Like it's so easy to just be all in. And like, not like how bad can it be, but like if you have a flush here, like you kind of like want to be all in. You have the nut flush. Like,
I hope you have king queen.
But in reality, like the real issue is like trying to like assess what you think the other person's range is in real time as to like, okay, you can go all in because you probably have the best hand, but like what calls that's worse?
Yeah.
Like how do you actually get paid here on the bubble when you're covering one off the money? Is he even going to put in? Like this is why he can't call. Like Colopy can't call like the nut flush.
Right.
Because what does he have?
Right. And then it's so bizarre,
what
right?
cost?
It's so bizarre because you look at like the nut flush and you would think, well, the nut flush can get called by king queen because king queen is calling at a high frequency. But problem is that it's not just that the nut flush can get called by worse, it's that when you have the nut flush, you are blocking enough of the hands that are not full houses that now, even though you can get called by king queen, you're actually just running into way more full houses, and so you start to like not be in a good spot again. So the super narrow nature of the ranges, like everything is blocking everything, and it just gets to a spot where even though theoretically you can get called by worse when you have the nut flush, you also get called by a lot of better, and there's not a huge incentive to go for thin value in a bubble spot like this.
Right. And Nick's range here is going to be like polar, like he's going to have a really good hand or he's not, and like aces in that time, like versus this node of like check call doesn't have as much showdown value as it might seem it does in practice. Like you're just going to see a straight a lot. You're just going to see like not like two pair that you beat because it's counterfeit, but like you're just going to see a queen. Like you call the turn versus B50. Like he's probably got a queen and like or a straight.
Yeah, I mean, all his queens right now are either boats or straights for the most part. Like, we're on the bubble. Like, he's not defending, like, he'll defend, like, queen 8 suited maybe, but, like, it's, like, straight, too, actually.
I think another interesting aspect of this hand is that if this was low jack versus big blind, it would be completely different. Like, the nature of the big blind calling range, even though it wouldn't be as wide as a normal big blind calling range, it would be much, much wider than the super narrow small blind calling range that Colopy actually supposed to have here. So it would totally transform the spot. There would be more flushes in Colopy's range. There'd be more king X, be more straights, less two pairs relatively, and all sorts of stuff like that would make this a totally different hand. So it just, this specific formation of low jack small blind on the bubble, it's so rare, and this board texture is so rare, obviously, that it creates this one-of-a-kind spot that it's so hard to like pick your way through if you're either of these two players. Right?
Yeah, because if Jim is big blind, he just has, like, what?
He has a lot more
50% more hands.
Well, he has more suited hands, more offsuit stuff. Like there's a
he
lot.
probably has like 100% more hands.
Yeah, he has like if he's in big blind, he has like
More than that.
queen 9
more
off,
than that,
like that sort of stuff.
Like
you know,
the small blind narrow range in the first place, like the calling range is what makes the spot kind of tricky.
Yeah.
Because I think in this spot, like theoretically speaking, if you will, king queen probably is going to find a way to be all in pre. Like you don't really want to play out of position, covered on the bubble. You also want to disincentivize the big blind from having a squeeze spot or also getting in the pot multi-way. So I would imagine like king queen would just be all in, Nick would call with aces, and then Nick would lose the hand because Colopy has a straight and trips.
Yeah.
And that's how that would go.
Do you think that happens on the bubble? You think that's
I think king queen would be all in. Like you have no good options, but all in is a good one.
and the
like
part of the reason for it is that
you can't fold and you can't.
When
flat.
both stacks are under a lot of pressure because they're both kind of middling stacks, when you jam and you put them to a call decision, it's really hard for them to call off.
Like ace jack suited.
Right. Schulman is like Schulman has to fold probably like I think tens probably folds. Jacks is very close.
Yeah.
I would think on the bubble here. And when you have king queen suited and you can get tens to fold, that's like amazing.
Beautiful thing.
And getting ace queen off.
You
or
block
something
ace
to fold,
king, you
right.
block kings and queens.
Yeah, so it's like these are the kind of the push and pull things of ICM spots where if Schulman like is the chip leader, then jamming king queen suited is really doesn't feel good because he actually can call you with like ace jack suited. But when Schulman is a middle stack too, you put the pressure back on him when you jam, so you can have some jams that maybe wouldn't jam against the chip leader.
Yeah, there's just many different things that are happening depending from like where the potential chip leader opened from, or like if it's button versus small blind, king queen's like a layup jam, right? He has way too many hands. If he's chip leader, you're just going to perform well in that node. You don't want to play out of position. But when it's versus a tighter spot, it gets very scary very fast, which is why Jim went for call for good reason, and then unfortunately for him got ravaged off his hand. But that's part of the game. Like,
sometimes you just get ravaged off your hand.
Sometimes you get ravaged off your hand.
By the
like,
goat, and you just lose. Yeah.
Sometimes we're just in the streets.
Sometimes you're in the muck.
We are in the muck.
Sometimes you're in the streets, sometimes you're in the muck.
We got some double poker today. Let's get into it. We're in the muck, baby.
No. Let's not get into the muck. Just
we're gonna get into the muck. But, you know, we're gonna get into
We're eventually gonna get in the muck.
We're walking towards the
We're
muck.
walking towards the muck.
Yes.
We're like an oil muck.
We're heading
All right, we're heading east
to the muck.
to one of Conrad's favorite places.
Where are we?
We're in Atlantic City. We're at the Regatta, baby.
I fucking hate that place.
We're playing 2-5. You love it there.
I thought you were about to say we're heading east because that's where the muck is. I was like, why is the muck to the east?
The muck is to the east right now.
Florida's down there, man.
Yeah, so we have a user submission. This is DRM Big. Guess that's her name.
Dr. M. Big.
Dr. M. Big.
Dr. M. Big.
Dr. Michelle.
Is that Michelle?
It's Michelle. Michelle's in the muck at the Borgata.
That's amazing. All right, so falls around to the doc.
To Michelle.
Yeah. Who has the ace 10 of diamonds, and we're on the button. We decide to make it 15.
We're pumping it up.
We're pumping it up. The big, and we're about 1,100 effective here in this 2-5 game. Big blind decides to 3-bet very small to $35.
Limit hold'em.
Comes back to us. We said, fuck that 30. That small bet.
Michelle don't play no games.
No games. No games.
Wait, hold
so
on.
we make it 120. What?
Why doesn't she coach you?
I know, right? So we make it 120 with we come in with the 4-bet and we get called.
Or BZ.
Yep.
He put in the actual size the 3-bet was supposed to be.
Yeah. And so, because he wanted to make sure the pot was right.
Like you should have 3-bet to 120, so I'm just going to do it for you.
We get a flop of 9 of clubs, 6 of clubs, 3 of hearts. Check to us. We decide to bet half pot, 120 into 242, and we are met with a call. And the turn is the queen of diamonds. And now it goes check, check on the turn, bringing the 4 of clubs on the river. And we check. And wait, is that right? I think
I think this is right. I remember looking at this.
Okay, yeah. And sorry. And so on the river, we decide to bet, I believe, 3.
That's 300, right?
300. Yeah. And we are met with a call. And we lose to the ace 6 off.
Yeah.
The what?
The ace 6 offsuit.
Lots of pain here. Lots of pain here. Mama, we found out why I went to 35.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
what do we think here, guys? Landon's head exploded a little bit putting this into the sim.
Yeah.
I mean, the sim does not exist for this.
The sim doesn't exist because the big
sim
blind
does not exist in this dojo.
The limit does not exist.
I could have told you this was a Borgata head if you told me.
Ambassador Conrad of the Borgata.
Ace 6 off.
I think it's weird, right? Because you see the result of ace 6 off and you think, okay, well, that makes the 4-bet really good because villain's peeling 4-bets with ace 6 off, right? But like before the hand, if you don't expect them to necessarily have like a super wide range against the 4-bet, then you probably shouldn't 4-bet this hand because this hand really, really hates
getting
having
jammed on,
a 5-bet put in, right? Like this hand is the hand that it's right in that middle of region where it's very unlikely that villain's ever going to fold better, but you also can't necessarily expect them to 3-bet and then peel a 4-bet with that much worse. So I think ace-10 suited just belongs in a call range against the 3-bet. And when you're at this depth, I don't think you really need to have that many in-position 4-bets to begin with, because one of your main advantages is being able to play in position, especially getting an incredible price against the really tiny 3-bet. So I don't think we should just call.
You like to keep SBR pretty wide.
I think
right?
I don't think we have much incentive to
or low,
drastically narrow the SPR by 4-betting here, unless we can be really confident that we're getting tons of value.
Yeah,
and obviously, that's what happened. We did get called by ace-6 off.
Right.
But if we don't know that in advance of the hand, we can't start looking back at it and saying, well, clearly the 4-bet was good.
But if we do know somebody's monkeying around, absolute losing their mind in these type of situations.
Then you just 4-bet and you just call the 5-bet jam if that's the case. But like,
you got to have a plan.
Wild.
You know, like if you're 4-betting and they jam on you, you're like, okay, I've chose this path. Like, we're gonna run it for 200 big blinds and see what happens.
This is the path I've chosen. I will live with the consequences.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well. If my actions have consequences.
If it isn't the consequences of my actions.
Yeah, because I mean, like flop, I think we should probably check back as well. Our hand doesn't really do too well. I mean, yeah, this is just the sim is here. This is like, call it 200 big blinds, like the big blind legit 3-bet range. It looks something like this, but who knows if like there's no ace-6 off, like. You know, who knows?
There's ace-7 off though.
Like in theory, like this isn't really a 4-bet pot because we have ace-10 suited,
right?
And it's not really a 3-bet pot because he min-raised us,
right?
So we're in this like weird like purgatory zone of it's like a 3.5-bet pot where we put in money with like a range that can call a 3-bet but can also 4-bet. We're like, we're gonna have aces here as the defender.
I think you've invented a new strategy. I think you've invented the 3.5-bet.
Right.
Where if your opponent 3-bets really, really small, then you're 4-betting to a size that's the normal size of a 3-bet. That's what a 3.5-bet is now.
Exactly, because like in the theory range, like we're defending a 3-bet, but like we're gonna have aces, kings, ace, king, and kings. But like ace-10 of diamonds specifically, like does well to check back, realize some equity. Getting check raised is kind of not a disaster, but you're gonna have to like fold depending on how big he check raises you. And that's not really great when you have 2 overcards with 3 to a straight,
especially
and no help, like no backdoor help.
This struck me a little bit as people just when they 4-bet and then they get called, they just range bet every board because they're the 4-bet.
I have aces, I have kings.
It's so funny that you just said that because I was about to ask about that. It seems like you've taken such an incentive, like on an aggressive side, that there really aren't many boards where you feel like you shouldn't be betting. I'm just thinking like, you know, top level here. By top level, I mean at the surface. But yeah, it's interesting.
You're not wrong, but I think the caveat that people need to add in these spots is that assuming your opponent isn't monkeying around like this opponent, you are usually up against a pretty narrow and strong range of hands that calls a 4-bet. And that range can have traps in it too. So quite often what ends up happening is that because you have ideally a bunch of 4-bet bluffs and your opponent doesn't really have any weak hands that call a 4-bet, even though you are slightly more likely to have the very, very top than they are, there's a lot of board textures where, particularly on a board like this, on 9-6-3, like, yeah, you can have aces and kings, and those are obviously really good hands, but you never, ever have a set here, whereas they maybe can have pocket nines. Maybe they can 3-bet 6s sometimes, like that can exist. There's a bunch of draws out there which, you know, maybe either player can have, but really both players just have a lot of like ace-high overcard combos, stuff like that. So it is a board where we have a bit of an advantage, but it's not that common in 4-bet pots that we have like some massive advantage unless our opponent is just way too wide in these situations. So there are quite a lot of 4-bet situations where we have to actually slow it down a little bit or just make sure that we don't fall into the trap of just auto range betting everything.
Right. Yeah, I'm for sure. And this is kind of the issue, I guess, in the 3.5-bet pots.
Can I look at the big blinds range real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I just mean like it's broken, right? This is
I get it. I'm just trying to look at the Jack 10 and the Queen Jack. Of
yeah, I mean this
and
is just for them. Like this is their 3-betting range. Like I ran this, or we're looking at this now. Like it's big blind versus button 3-bet pot, where the right amount of money went in pre-flop, and the big blind has the range that is relatively replicable of what it's supposed to be.
Okay.
And in this spot, like they like big bets because they want to like leverage their overpair advantage, but you don't want to bet everything. Even though you have aces and kings and queens, you also have a lot of garbage. Like
we, I should note though, we do have the pot size wrong in this spot because the pot is not 24 big blinds.
Yeah, there's more.
48. It's double it.
It's double.
Because they're playing 2-5. So they went to 120, which is 24 big blinds, and then got called. So it's 48 big blinds in the pot.
Right. And then you can argue what the ranges look like or whatever. Who knows, right? Still.
Yeah. So now you get more betting from the big blind.
Yeah, like you just like the pot is really big, and we can
SPR is
just
lower,
get money in with these hands and feel good about it. But you also have a lot of suited Broadway that didn't connect, which you can't always just be betting, like betting King Jack or betting King 10. Like having the mentality of I have an overpair, he doesn't. For one, in this case, isn't even going to be true because he 4-bet.
Right. Yeah.
and B, like you can't just bet everything because you have overpairs. You know, you just have way too much offsuit nonsense, or like even like A6 off, for example. Like you're just gonna have random hands that don't just want to start like ravaging in money because it gets like very scary.
I think the just to speak to what Guapo mentioned about just kind of having the assumption of range betting, it presupposes that we don't have a lot of 4-bet bluffs, right? That's the thing. It's like it would make sense to range bet almost every board if we were only 4-betting aces and kings, right? But as soon as we start to actually expand our 4-bet range to the point where it's more balanced and it has more board coverage, you now have to start thinking about, well, I have actually a bunch of different hands here, and not all these hands want to bet because a lot of them have an incentive to take a free card, or they can't bluff very well, or there's just a bunch of different hands now that I have to start adding into an overall well-rounded strategy, right?
I do think to a degree, this is kind of why at lower stakes, like playing in position in single raise pots, you get to just absolutely ravage because Guapo's mentality of they have really good hands when they 3-bet and when they 4-bet is mostly true. So when they defend in the single raise pot nodes, their ranges are wider and it's harder to defend. So you get to like go bet and win a bunch. But once they 3-bet, it's like alarm bells. Like once they 4-bet, it's like, God, like this is queens plus like only, like queens plus. The bluff is ace king.
Right.
So every board gets range bet because their hands are so good.
Yeah, and if you ever run a sim for a spot where you're up against a range of like queens plus, if you give somebody like a ridiculously tight range in a sim, the sim will look insane because it'll tell them to range bet all in, and we just always fold because why would we ever not fold when they always have a good hand, you know? So it's like the sim really breaks if you start to assume that people play wildly bad pre-flop strategies where they don't have bluffs in certain nodes.
This is why it's hard to just pay a lot, you know, because
it's hard to just pay, but you know, if your opponent is not bluffing, you shouldn't pay. You know?
Right.
That's a good rule.
But people's mentality is that people don't bluff enough, and then they're in these 3 and 4-bet pots that they are nutted. So,
and I think that's why the whole just pay thing is not a universal thing, because
right, of course not.
It's a you do have to be very like context aware. Like in single raise pots when ranges are wide, and maybe particularly I think one thing that people do is like there's only 2 streets of betting or something, so like it goes bet flop, check turn, bet river, and then people are like folding like really strong bluff catches because they think this opponent doesn't bluff. And it's like, well, they actually have so many hands here, it's not that difficult for them to find bluffs, and you probably shouldn't fold a bluff catcher in that spot. But then you apply the same logic to a spot where it goes 4-bet, bet flop, bet turn, shove river. Now, yeah, they may really struggle to find bluffs of any kind.
Right.
So you really have to be very adaptive, and you have to be aware of how much the overall flow of the action and how much betting has gone in, and what type of pot you're actually in is going to affect people's tendencies to bluff.
Yeah, just
makes a lot of sense.
What said ranges are, and this is why, like when the button opens really wide, you need to 3-bet very wide because they have so much garbage, and you want to win the pot pre-flop, not play out of position. Like there's a bunch of good things that happen when you 3-bet, and that's why the range looks like this, right? There's just like a lot of not nonsense, but like you have queen 6 suited, you have king 6 suited, like you have all of these hands that, for the most part, people are just gonna peel from big blind. They're just gonna be like, I call. I don't want to 3-bet. They could have aces and kings. They're also opening half the deck. So let's start there. Like you can't open half the deck and always have aces.
Right.
We're playing a different game if that's the case. I need to find a different game. I don't know who gets aces on the button every time.
I think it's a funny thing with low stakes poker. It's like Schrodinger's opponent who plays all the hands but also always has it. You know? It's like how is that possible? How is my opponent like BPIP 70 and then they just always have it? It's not, you can't be both things at once.
Exactly. So in this spot, like you have to 3-bet aggressively, and it's not just so you only have like the top end of the deck, but so people can't just start folding to you versus your range bets on like 9-6-3. Because like if you only have queen or jacks plus in this spot, and you like your size is just gonna be huge.
Yeah.
You just have overpairs and they have a 9. You know, like what are you gonna do with a 9 or a flush draw?
Yeah.
But when you're playing in like constructed ranges with this is why it is important to have
So we probably should check flop. Let's scroll it through to see the later streets. I think the turn check is probably good. I don't think that we if we do, I think we have to follow the line where we did bet flop, because
I believe you said in Discord that was the best played street.
Yeah.
Check.
It's funny because the person who posted the hand, I think, thought it was the worst played street.
Right.
They thought like, oh, I should have bet the turn. I was like, no, the turn is the only real street where your strategy actually makes a lot of sense with ace 10 of diamonds, because ace 10 of diamonds has no real incentive to bet the turn. You don't really get a lot of pair plus hands to fold, and you also never get any action from worse. So I think we do fine just checking turn.
Okay, so we bet the flop. The turn was
Queen of diamonds.
Queen of diamonds.
Goes check.
I don't want to bet the turn anymore. We might just win somehow, some way.
Yeah, I think this is another thing that people do a little bit too often as well, which is bluff with hands that actually have more showdown value than you think.
Yeah.
You know? Because particularly on this turn, like if your opponent just has a flush draw, and they miss the river, you win a lot, right? You just win with ace high.
Yeah. So like here, the machine is just like, oh, like I want to bet the turn, but like I didn't give aces and kings to this. The 3-bet, 4-bet range, so the queen is actually much better in this node because we just have a lot more queens.
Yeah.
So, sure, I guess you can bet if you want, because they're gonna check raise a lot of their good hands on flop too. Like if they didn't c-bet the flop, they're going to check raise with their overpairs. So this queen is actually better for you than it looks.
Yeah.
Like even though it's like an overcard scary, it's actually like the overcard that's good for the button that does stab with these bluffs.
We're definitely getting more into broken sim territory now, though, because of the fact that the pre-flop ranges were broken, and then we've also got the flop range has so much check raising that probably isn't actually happening in practice.
Yeah, and we're not supposed to bet this hand in the first place. But the queen is like such a good range card for us. We have good blockers to their floats, right? Because when we bet 40 and the big blind calls, they're gonna have ace queen.
Yeah.
So we have good blocks now to his ace queen and like queen 10s that could
and it's noteworthy as well, like the reason the queen is a decent card for us is because we're in this spot we have all the like queen jack suited, queen 10 suited, you know, we have a lot of queen x, which
that we're not going to 4-bet to 120.
The reason why we have those in this sim is because we're looking at a 3-bet pot, but in this 3.5 bet pot, we probably don't really have very much queen x at all. So we would really have to like completely reorganize the ranges in order to run like an accurate version of this sim.
Yeah.
But it's still not going to be very accurate because we have so little clarity.
4 clubs.
River was what? 4 clubs?
4 clubs.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the main takeaway for me, at least, when like who cares if someone's like min clicking pre, like that's not the point. But like 4-betting in the first place and like not just taking the price probably will, like, unless you are aware of what's going on, like, it's like you can't use theory for this hand if you're like this guy is a6 off, like you just have to like play your hand like and like beat the guy, like use your brain and win, you know, like he has too many cards, you have an ace 10 suited, that's a good hand.
Ace 10, you're suited connected, you're in position, and he gave you a really good price. Thank you for the good price. Call.
I think that's a big point. Like
and I'm in a really good spot here in position.
Just the idea that being given way too good of a price when you're in position pre is something that contributes a ton to your EV, to the point where you now really don't have to 4-bet much at all. You just make them play post-flop and punish them for the fact that they just created a spot where you have like no folds or almost no folds.
If anything, like the decreased SPR is worse for you now because you, on average, right, you're going to get the worst hands that you dominate to fold pre to the 4-bet, and anything that's min click that didn't really know what's going on that continues, it's probably going to be better.
Right.
And you reduce your impositional advantage of being able to like have a deeper SPR.
Right. The only reason the 4-bet pre-flop would become good is if we're very confident that villain is going to peel that 4-bet or 5-bet jam with a bunch of worse hands.
Right.
And
For
unless
sure.
you can look at the spot and say, I'm 4-betting for clear value because I'm super confident that he's going to like make some crazy calls with, you know, Jack 10 offsuit or like Ace 6 offsuit like he did or whatever. Unless you can say that, you should just call.
Yeah,
And, like,
it's
just a hand that
unlikely
wants to
with
call.
ace 10.
I suppose
Right,
a good
right.
conclusion here too is if that's the case, like you're not in the muck, you're just playing a different game of poker, which is fine. Like this is not a hand that you really want to like theoretically critically analyze because you're thinking I'm going to play a hand out of construction for a specific reason that only you can know. You know, like we don't know what this other guy's doing when he min clicks it. He might just like be a guy that only had kings, but he didn't have kings.
Right. We
He
can't
sits
tell you,
off.
we can't tell you for sure what the best play is, but we can tell you that the plays that were made in this spot didn't fit the incentives of the hand. And that's a giveaway that there was probably some mistakes going on because the more you're starting to get into the exploitative area of, I know my opponent's making a bunch of mistakes and I just want to capitalize on them, the more you just can afford to play each hand according to its incentives. But the problem is ace 10 suited doesn't have the incentive to 4-bet. It doesn't really have the incentive to bet the flop. And you could argue whether or not it even has the incentive to bet the river. But
And
that's
like,
kind of the issue.
and now we have good blockers for whatever this range looks like because of how they float. So
Right.
now bluffing makes sense, you know? Like if you look at the river here, like you're betting some ace 8 of clubs, like ace 10 doesn't exist because like it's supposed to bet the turn, but it's fine. Like it's fine. With the dog burning with the fire in the background. Like,
On that note, if you want to submit your In the Muck hand, please go on over to our Discord. In the Muck, send it on over. We'll go through it.
Bruce will look at
Make
it.
sure it's heads up, all right? We need heads up stuff.
Yeah. Multi-way's tough. Do we bet 3.5 bet pots are tough?
We finally got a heads up one, but it was a 3.5 bet pot.
We did. But on that note, we'll be back tomorrow. I think we're coming in at noon, maybe 11. We will see. We'll check our social media.
Gotta get on the phone to Uzbekistan and see how he's
The
doing.
Uzbek Undertaker.
Speaking of, has anybody spoken to that man yet?
He's in the Survivor Decisions chat.
Are we sure he's alive?
We need a newspaper.
Is he being helped with ransom?
They can keep him, man.
by the Uzbeks.
Yeah, he'd be happy to be kept.
On that note, we'll holla at y'all tomorrow. Thanks for rocking with us. Later, squad.
Peace.
Peace.